you look at what happened in Gujarat, I don't think post-independence any Indian politician has faced the kind of criticism that the Gujarat Chief Minister did face. He had a choice to make. He could have got involved with those carrying on a campaign, answered them back and got blocked in that controversy. Or he had an option to set his own agenda. I think he sensibly chose the latter course. Look at the kind of huge opposition the Narmada project had. The Supreme Court stalled the project. Its cost went up by thousands of crores. Last week, the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh told me that on the 25th of this month, he is going to inaugurate a scheme which brings now the Narmada water into Shipra, where the Malwa region of Madhya Pradesh will have a flowing river and therefore impact on irrigation. Now, two states, I am not going on to the power sector impact of that project in Madhya Pradesh particularly, but from a state where there was water scarcity, Saurashtra did not even have drinking water. You now have an agriculture growth which is consistently double digit. Madhya Pradesh, for the second or the third year running, has got the award, been awarded for the highest agricultural production. Today it's way ahead of Punjab. And that's the turnaround story that had a lot of impact. So everybody who tried to stall the project, the Supreme Court stalled it by a few years, otherwise you went ahead. So your agriculture is double digit. Fortunately, you had the traditional advantage of the white revolution in relation to milk. The rural economy became stronger. You had the advantage of having a very large coastline. You developed ports all along the coast. So this has also created a lot of employment opportunities amongst the fishermen communities which otherwise traditionally relied only on the traditional preoccupations. So there's a lot of economic activity along the innumerable number of ports, mostly private sector now, along the coast. And I think with agriculture improving, the milk revolution there, the ports doing well, the manufacturing sector really changed the face of the state. And you had probably the state now became known for its growth in the manufacturing sector. The infrastructure there helped. And I think there was a lot of non-traditional thinking. The state stopped acquiring land, the state stopped developing housing themselves. It drew out various schemes, and in the next decade as the rollout took place, I found out that good quality urban housing was available at half or one-third the price at which it would be available in any other part of India. Even today it's not exorbitant. And one of the reasons was, instead of shrinking the land availability, you expanded the land availability. And the state the state administration really concentrated on the large highways and the interior roads and the zoning, and charged the people who were developing land a particular premium for the state for doing all this. And the growth was much faster. I think it was decisiveness in terms of decision making that played a key role. And this decisiveness, I think, was not merely political. The state's civil service and the bureaucracy also attuned themselves to this change culture. And therefore, investors found the environment there was far more hospitable. I think eventually the model that grew is the model which India conceives of. You need a very high growth rate for this country. You need investment. You need much larger economic activity. You need job creation. You need revenues. You use a very large part of revenue for infrastructure. You use a very large part of revenue for poverty alleviation schemes, which was simultaneously done. I don't think on the model itself there is a serious problem. It was the effectiveness of the leadership where you were able to implement this. And I think this is what really provided the cutting edge. And this is what made the difference. There are still many areas where the state has to travel, I think, in terms of educational institutions. There are some traditionally very good institutions there, but it still has a lot to do to expand. And these are areas, I think, which are for the really a part of the ongoing investment and reform process in that particular state. At the end of the day, I think for any manager of political economy, it's your ability to understand the direction in which you must move. How do you accelerate the pace of that movement? How do you push that decision-making process? How do you attune the entire system to move in that direction? I think it's that clarity which is necessary. When I mentioned 1991 and Mr. Narasimha Rao or Gujarat and Mr. Modi, and compare it with the example of what's happened in the last few years in New Delhi, that strengthened my belief that you need not a politician, but a hardcore politician and a leader who really can show the direction, implement decisions, look beyond his nose, and be clear about the direction in which the country is to move. If you are too cautious, if you are too safe a player, then you run the risk of at best becoming a footnote. And that's how history probably will record you.